Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just got to pause one device.
All righty. I do apologize.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Sheila.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome, welcome, you guys. I am so excited. This has been a great last 24 hours. I mean, this has been awesome. Um, Thank you for this opportunity, Marnice. And so today, this session will discuss the intersectional identities and building decarbonization in this panel discussion. They will focus on the underrepresented and oppressed groups and a solution that can uplift all people. My name is Sheila Curry-Campbell, and I am from Pilgrim Baptist Church. And I was probably one of the first members of the Midwest BDC, and I'm
You were.
officially the vice chair of the board of directors. I'll be moderating this panel discussion. And so this, as I stated, this discussion will discuss the intersectional identities and building decarbonization. We will put your bios in the chat if you can help out with that. We want to get right into the conversation. We have with us today Jayne Black. She is with the Wisconsin organizers from Moms Clean Air Force. Tracy Sabetta is with the Ohio coordinator for Moms Clean Air Force. And Isioma is in Chicago with the Outreach Senior Coordinator from Faith in Place. And lastly, Reverend Brian Sauder, the Executive Director from Faith. Welcome to you all. Can you view their, if you could drop their bios in the chat, or you can reach out on our website. All right, let's talk, you guys. I do apologize. I had to bring my mom out to the hospital. And so I'm here in the lobby, and so you might hear some dinging from the elevators, but we're going to keep it moving. You know, life happens, and so we're just going to keep it moving, okay? All righty. Okay, we're going to start out here with Reverend Brian. The coalition focused on eliminating fossil fuels in building schools, buildings, multifamily units. Why is it important to lift up and how people of different faiths should be advocates for clean indoor air quality?
Yeah, thanks, Sheila. It's great to be on the panel with everybody. My colleague and I, Isioma, actually conferred ahead of time, and we thought Isioma would take this question from her experience. So I'll pass the baton right over to Isioma to talk about this one.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Can y'all hear me? Okay, so thanks for having us. I think it's important to involve people of faith for advocating for clean air, because faith communities can help raise awareness among a large number of people at the same time. There's also this history of faith communities mobilizing the collective to take action and protect the well-being of others, especially vulnerable populations. The civil rights movement comes to mind as one example. The Black church was sort of a meeting ground for folks to meet and discuss social issues and how they were going to go about to make change. So there's this blend of not only faith communities, but others as well coming into faith communities to discuss what are the values and principles, and taking social issues like poor air quality and looking at it through the lens of what are the shared values and principles, and asking, is this just, is this right? And if it's not, then how can we change things? So advocating for clean air quality is important, not just for our health and our environment, but also because it's the way to live out this kind of moral responsibility, to put your faith into action. Also, by bringing together people of faith with this shared understanding. So you have different people of faiths coming with this shared understanding. You are bridging together any gaps, you're building relationships amongst different denominations, among different cultures. So there's this collective power that comes with that. And with influence, you can take that collective power and really make some things happen.
This question's for you. How can spiritual or religious leaders and followers of faith move toward collective action to advance climate justice?
Yeah, so the vision at Faith in Place is that you walk into a neighborhood, a community, you ask somebody on the street, hey, who is leading the way for environmental justice in this community? Who is advancing racial justice? And our vision at Faith in Place is people are like, oh, you should really check out what the mosque is doing, the synagogue, the temple, the parish, the church. Like those faith institutions in our community are putting their faith in place, if you will, their faith in action, and really making serious advances for clean air, for water that's accessible for everybody, for land that is growing fresh and healthy vegetables that are accessible, to have beauty in the outdoors. And so the way this happens at Faith in Place, I've been doing this for a moment, it happens through deep relationships. And I'll tell you a quick story. We've partnered for years with a church on the west side of Chicago that's doing amazing work in the community. They have a lot of affordable housing connected with the church. They have a workforce training program. We've helped them reduce their energy burden by doing an energy audit in their church. But their vision just keeps growing in partnership as we built relationships. And they've really gotten onto this idea of how do we become a climate resiliency hub? So if the grid goes out and it's 99 degrees, people can come for cooling in the space that we have available. Or if it's cold, and the grid goes out, there's heat, or we can use our volunteer base to go out and check on the seniors in the community, make sure everybody's okay. Well, that takes capital, right? And so we started to look at, all right, well, there's lots of federal capital coming from the Inflation Reduction Act, from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. What are some proposals we can go towards together to not only turn the faith community into a climate resiliency hub, but also electrify all the affordable housing? Well, because we have a deep relationship, the pastor's like, I can't make this decision on my own. Let's pull the community together and have a conversation about electrification and climate resiliency. And so we get into this meeting together, where we're sharing, and we start to talk like, what do you think about electrifying your home? Here's some of the things we think about the impacts of gas in the home, the impacts on asthma rates. And folks around the table are like, well, would I have to move out of my house in order to do that? Well, possibly. We would have to bring an energy auditor. Oh, hold on. No auditors coming into my home. Well, okay, maybe we do an energy assessment. We'd have to do that. Well, it'd need to be someone that I trust. And the seniors are like, I don't want to move. Like, nobody can move me out of my house for anything. Totally fine. Or the younger generation is like, well, I'll move, but could we put in the budget line item a nice hotel that I could stay in while I get out, while the renovation happens? So this happens in deep relationship. Like these are the important sort of conversations that we need to be happening, that the faith institution is just set up to have. We have just whether you're meeting for prayers on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have just a regular practice of meeting together, sharing with each other, building trust, having honest and real conversations that are essential for any sort of environmental goals and leadership around environment. And so I just believe that the faith communities that are thriving, that are active, that are really leading the way in community, that are known by people on the street, they're living their faith outside of the four walls of worship. They're putting their faith into action, meeting with the community, providing workforce training and environmental careers, providing opportunities to electrify your home, but also doing it in a mutual sort of relationship way. So I'm just excited about that work. I think that work is some of the most energizing parts of the work. In our roles at nonprofits, we have a lot of tedious things we have to do. I have to go out as my role executive director and fundraise, and I got to sign checks and deal with HR. But at the end of the day, when we get out in community together and we're having like, this is how we want to transform the community for cleaner air, for less energy burden, for more access to local, healthy, fresh foods, for green career opportunities. And we're actually doing that in integrity. That's the best stuff. I mean, that gets me fired up. So Sheila, I don't know if I answered your question, but I got rolling there a little bit. I'll turn it back to you to take us to the next step.
Well, thank you for that answer. And I think a lot of folks picked up several nuggets that you put down. And so I I believe that you shared quite a bit. I don't know if you can do this in maybe 1 minute or less. What have you seen as some of the barriers to getting members of faith to lead on climate issues like indoor air quality, polluting facilities like power plants? I don't know if you could share briefly with us on that one.
Well, Sheila, I'm a preacher, so asking me to share briefly is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. So let me pass it actually to my colleague Isioma, who might give some insights onto that one because she's every day out in community doing this work.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the barriers that comes to mind is the lack of resources to do anything about the issue. So even if there is an awareness of poor indoor air quality, it's like, okay, how can we afford to do anything about it? So there's this limited resources. Also, more pressing issues may be present. The building may be 100 years old and we need a new roof, right? So you're thinking about those things first. Also, most are showing up for their spiritual needs. And so this awareness around environmental concerns, it may take some time for people to like fully understand the urgency. So they might be more worried about putting food on the table or the threat of violence as a barrier.
Thank you so much. We want to try to get Jayne and Tracy in here. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we created this space for you folks. Mothers and others take on emotional and nurturing roles to make sure we have a livable environment for our children. What does your advocacy looks like when mothers organize for their children?
Hi, I'm Jayne, and Tracy and I are going to share this question. So at Moms Clean Air Force, advocacy looks like sharing our climate stories. Moms Clean Air Force is a community of 1.5 million parents and families that are united in our efforts to protect our kids' health. Every mom, dad, grandparent, aunt, and uncle has a story about how climate change and air pollution affects their children. My story is that I have a son who has asthma that's provoked by the environment. I also have a daughter who has multiple sclerosis, and extreme heat can worsen MS symptoms. It's really heartbreaking to see climate change impact your child's health. We at Moms we see, the power that sharing our climate stories has to move decision makers to make changes. And the power of that collective action is that by using our voices and our stories, we've been able to mobilize others to join our fight for legislation to protect our environment on behalf of our children. Our unified voices have the power to move our legislators to action. And this is something that I've seen personally firsthand when I wrote my first climate bill in Wisconsin to improve air quality in schools. We at Moms Clean Air Force encourage everyone to use their voice. We testify to EPA, we meet with state and federal lawmakers, we advocate for strengthened climate rules, and we educate the public on air pollution and climate change issues. Last year, Moms Clean Air Force generated over 151,000 messages to Congress and regulatory agencies on key climate and health issues. We made 192 legislative visits to advocate for common sense climate investments, protections from plastic incineration pollution, electric school bus funding, and more. Moms' advocacy for clean air and climate solution has been featured in 2,580 news stories in media outlets nationwide. So we truly see this advocacy through moms' stories creating true change for our environment and for our kids.
Thanks, Jayne. I'm going to jump in. And first off, I'm going to say, Sheila, I have been where you are right now, and I am sending you all the strength in the world. I just want to say the first thing that I thought of when I heard this particular question was that mothers and those who care about children approach every opportunity to stand up for their children from a place of protection. In the case of Moms Clean Air Force, our mothers care about protecting their children's health, their children's futures, and they care about protecting the planet that their children are going to inherit. In Ohio, our moms are pretty fierce advocates who have never hesitated to call on our elected officials to act on climate or clean energy policies. Now, much like other states, we face some pretty stiff opposition in Ohio to these measures, and our moms have also used their collective power to hold those lawmakers accountable. One particular example, in July of 2020, news broke of a $61 million bribery scandal perpetuated by the former Speaker of the Ohio House and First Energy, which is one of our state's largest investor-owned utilities. This is not a proud moment for us. Some of you may have already heard this story, but at Moms, we instantly came together with a message of shame on you, because who better to deliver a shame on you message? And we targeted those most closely involved in the scandal. The messages were shame on you for rewarding corrupt and failed energy sources. Shame on you for showing our children that bribery and corruption could win the day in Ohio. And shame on you for mortgaging our children's health to line your pockets with bribes. So this collective action brought the power of what I like to call the indisputable message, that there is no challenging or discrediting a message of protection from mothers on behalf of their children. It changes the narrative. It puts a human face on the work that we do that can sometimes get bogged down in statistics or in numbers. So we have seen that moms working together to achieve a goal brings a very special kind of dedication that can motivate others to act as well.
Awesome, awesome. You did share with us about the Mother Collective Action. I don't know, Jayne or Tracy, what are some of the campaigns you're working on now? You spoke a little bit about some of the things you're doing, but there's any particular campaigns that you folks are working on?
Yep, I'm going to start with that one. So we'll start with Ohio. Moms Clean Air Force in Ohio, we are supporting legislation to bring a community solar pilot project to Ohio for the very first time. The legislation at the heart of the scandal that I just mentioned gutted Ohio's statewide renewable energy and efficiency standards. So we had to start over. And we have been hard at work on supporting programs and policies at both the state level and the local level that'll help us regain some of that commitment to clean energy development and carbon emissions reductions. So we believe that this pilot program, and I am happy to talk to anybody about community solar anytime, probably at length. So we don't have time for that today, but we really think that this program that is being addressed in the House right now is going to expand access to solar in areas that haven't normally had it as a great starting place. To ensure that we were being the most effective that we could be as a coalition partner and add value to the coalition's efforts, Moms had to spend some time assessing our strengths. So our members are really strong online advocates, and we excel at telling our personal clean air stories, and we will show up. When I first started at Moms in 2011, one of the things that we did was something called nap time activism. And we didn't really have too many people on the ground at that time in any of our states. So we asked our moms to do advocacy during nap time. If your kids are asleep, write out a note card to your member of Congress, place a phone call to your state representative. So it was really working with our moms where they were at that time and then helping to build them as advocates. So when we realized that one of the bill's sponsors was a proud mother and grandmother, we decided to bolster support for her leadership and keep her strong in the face of some opposition. So we developed social media graphics thanking her. We established social media response teams that would post messages directed at this representative during committee hearings, and developed a coalition-wide plan that would amplify those messages being used by our partners. And what we found was that she would respond to us during the hearings when she was hearing from moms. So we also sent text messages to our members to encourage them to attend committee hearings or local events around the legislation, and they came. One member who had never attended any of our events before came by herself to an event in downtown Cleveland to learn more and get more involved in the work. And this collective work has been noticed and appreciated and has resulted in us building a pretty strong relationship with a member of the majority legislative party that would have been difficult for some of our coalition partners to establish. So this campaign is ongoing. It is not done. Our legislature thank heavens, has gone home for recess and to campaign for the upcoming elections. But we have events planned over the summer, and we are planning some lame duck session activities and working to find other unique and creative ways to get our moms out there and make sure their voices are heard.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm not sure if there's any questions in the chat. I don't know if you spoke about the school and clean energy campaign. Is that something either one of you folks want to touch on?
Yeah,
Tracy?
I can speak to that. So one of our biggest campaigns is our Clean School Bus program. And it, founded by the bipartisan infrastructure law, EPA provided $5 billion over 5 years to get rid of dirty diesel buses and replace them with zero emission buses, which includes electric school buses, which Moms is a huge supporter of. We worked really hard to advocate for this money to be included in the bipartisan infrastructure law. And each funding cycle, we mobilize our members to reach out to their school districts to encourage them to apply. We do a lot of work in the community to educate, and we have actually been able to increase enrollments for this program. So it's really something that we're really passionate about. Through the Clean School Bus program, the EPA has awarded $2.7 billion to 1,290 school districts to replace 8,651 older polluting diesel school buses with zero tailpipe pollution buses, 8,309, which are electric through this program. And because diesel is a known carcinogen and it has many health implications, this program, for me personally, and all the moms who work on this with such passion and dedication, it's everything. This is a game changer. So this is our biggest campaign as far as clean energy for schools, and we're really excited and proud.
Awesome, awesome. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. If you have any questions for Faith in Plays, or if you have any questions for Jayne or Tracy, if you could just drop those in the chat. I think we have a few more minutes, Marnice. I think I did good on time.
Boy, look at you, Sheila. And you all were great, keeping it concise and everything. So we're going to take one question, and then after that, we're going to take a break, a 10-minute break, and return back at 1 o'clock. So, Angie, it looks like you have a question.
Everyone's so brilliant. It's impossible not to have questions. I was just listening and I was like, they have got their ish together. But like, is there anything that you learned not to do based on all of the organizing and collaborating you've done? Because that's just as important as knowing what to do, because I've made a lot of mistakes and I can make less learning from you.
I can jump in real quickly, is never to give up. Well, I mean, we do a lot of legislative advocacy in Ohio at the state level, and never give up on someone just because you think they're not going to support clean energy or that they're not going to respond to a climate message. We have the moms we bring kids into our meetings. We address this from a place of protecting the health of children. And that is really difficult for a legislator to look you in the eye and say, I don't believe that your child has asthma, or I don't believe that the policies we're putting forward are harming your children's health. I mean, it's knowing your audience, knowing the message that's going to stick with them, but don't ever sell them short, because it may not work every time, but there are ways to have conversations with people who you don't think will agree with you that will eventually get through to them.
Awesome. Marnice, do you have any other questions in there? I mean, like I said, I think we're a little ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're good to go. Any last
I have a
comments?
question.
Okay, Sheila.
I have a question. Faith in Place, you've been around for some time, and I heard some of the things you were talking about, which are some of the things that we're doing here in Fort Wayne. And so a resilience hub in funding has been a really big issue. Can you talk about that? I mean, we've been a resilience hub since the 70s with the American Red Cross. We're a disaster location in case of an emergency. A lot of things have to be upgraded in those contracts. What are some of the things that you folks are doing when you're talking to these churches, being a resilience hub? We're not just a church, we're a resilience hub 24/7. So what are some of the things that you can share with people when they're taking on that big task? Thank you.
Yeah, I can jump into that. And Sheila, it sounds like we need to talk. I bet I could learn a bunch from your experience. The important thing is, and this actually gets to the what not to do question as well. So maybe I could just like kind of tie these together because it's so easy on the what not to do. It's so easy as professionals in this space to kind of sit around the Zoom room or the table and talk about what we think are great ideas and then go after them, write the proposal or write the legislation and just assume that we know what's best for the community. I mean, as soon as you name it, it sounds ridiculous, right? But it's just so easy to slip into that, forgetting that, forgetting community and the work that we're doing and prioritizing equity in that work. And I think that's important for the resiliency hubs too, is faith communities are so well positioned to be resiliency hubs, but and there's funding, particularly around like the EPA community change grants that are available, large dollars that are available, need a faith in place or a group to kind of help navigate some of that federal funding and the paperwork. But it's got to be in partnership with the community that's going to be running the resiliency hub, that's going to be implementing the programs that make it work, that's going to be thinking through the little things like, hey, we need a hotel line item budget when we do the electrification of our homes nearby. There's like stuff like that that don't happen when you're sitting in the Zoom room as professionals, just thinking this through, even though the intention is pure and in the right spot, it can really lead to harmful impact if it's not done in deep collaboration. So there's just navigating this is difficult, right? The funding proposals demand speed, and community work requires a pace that is slow and thoughtful. And I think the thing that just keeps me grounded is a faithful every day, moving things forward, having the conversations, being honest about things, and taking it from there. So those are my thoughts, Sheila, from your question there.
And there is actually, thank you, Brian. There is actually one question from Paula. What is your experience with engaging with non-Christians?
Yeah, Isioma, do you want to talk to that one?
Yeah, I think one of the things to remember is that we all want the same thing. We all want clean air, clean water, and we all already want these things, and that runs in all different faith traditions and backgrounds and for everyone. So it's remembering when going into places like a mosque and bringing in this education and awareness and reminding people that it's not just a Christian call. It is a human call for everyone to get involved in this movement. And I've never had an issue with others outside the Christian faith in that way. So if we can all just get on that common ground, if these are all the things that we want as humans, despite our faith tradition, then pretty much people just go with that. So it's never really ran into any issues with that.
Well, if there's not any more questions that I can see, we're gonna go ahead and transition to our break.
I have one question, ma'am. They spoke a lot about advocacy, a lot of stuff they're doing. They got 1 million plus kids. So I guess my thing is, we're here in the Midwest. I'm in Fort Wayne. I'm in Indiana. Is there any type of advocacy that you ladies are doing right now, moms? Is there anything that we can maybe help you lift here in Indiana?
Well, I think Tracy and I both want to jump in here, so please, Tracy, jump in too. But I just wanted to jump in and say absolutely yes. Yes, yes. I'm just going to say that really quickly. We always encourage people to join the force. We are nationwide. We need every voice. And before Tracy jumps in, I just want to say at the heart of everything we do, because I did see, you know, like what's the advantage of IRA and clean energy, is to bridge that gap of environmental injustice. And we cannot do that without this funding. And that's why we celebrate it so much. One thing that we say at Moms is we're really fighting for justice in every breath. So I just wanted to say that. And Tracy, if you would like to jump in.
Yeah, I would say don't ever assume that people know what is available. You know, there are resources that are available. There are grants that can be, you know, there are for individuals to take advantage of, for local governments, for counties, for school districts. And don't ever assume that the decision makers in those areas know that this exists, because I have been surprised, to put it lightly, how few people are aware of the opportunities that are right in front of them right now. And we are not going to keep those dollars in circulation if we're not using them and we're not celebrating the wins when they come in. So I would say if you have, you know, in the school district where you live, if they don't have electric buses, you talk to that superintendent or a school board member that you know, and you tell them that this money is available. You talk to them about solar for schools so that they can put solar on the rooftops of their schools. You know, talk to them about community change grants, you know, where they can actually make a difference at their local hospital and going more energy efficient. There is a long list of things that, you know, can be done, and a long list of people who will help them to do it too. So, and I'm sure I speak for Jayne when I say don't ever hesitate to reach out to us, because we will help with this intersectionality that we are talking about here today to make sure everybody has what they need to be successful.
Thank you.
I'm turning it over to you for real this time, please. Thanks you guys so much for taking part. Brian, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you more about what we're doing. You'd be amazed at how many people you see in the hospital, okay? I've only been here probably 30 minutes. I've seen probably 10 people I know. Praise the Lord, saints. Thank you.
Sheila, thank you. Sheila, thank you so much for being an active member of the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition and stepping in, and prayers goes out to you and the family and moms. And thank you for all the hard work that you have done. I'm surprised Sheila didn't do the call to become members of Midwest BDC, but I'll do it. You know, we would love to continue to work across different movements. And we do have an orientation that's coming up, so you can all learn about how we can work together in solidarity and mutuality. So thank you, Jayne, Rev, Brian, Isioma. Did I say your name right?
Isioma.
Isioma, that's pretty. And Tracy, thank you all so much for being here. And we're gonna take a 3-minute break, okay, as we prepare for our next speaker. And we'll see you all at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all.